All right, thanks for having me here. So today I'm going to talk with you, share with you about, this cliche thing about self-love. I don't know if any of you have actually gone through this. Like, when I was in my university life, right? People around me and also the counselor will always say that, oh, you need to learn to love yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean? How do I love myself? What does that really mean? So, and it took me quite some time until I finally get to understand like what is this self-love thing about. So today I'm going to share with you about this. And it's not so much about theory, but we go more into okay, so now I know about it. So how do we practice it? Yeah. So how this presentation will go is I'm going to cover a bit like what I think is important in this community and some of the challenges that we might face. And finally, wrapping up with, so what is the implication? So now that we have got all these things, how do we make sense of it and how do we deal with it? Okay. So yeah, I think a lot of the this is being introduced, so I'm just going to skip this. Okay. So let's start with this, I want to invite you to just take a moment to just reflect, like, is it easy to make friends in this community? Like, how do you make friends in this community? Right? Because there are a lot of factors in Malaysia, like law, societal discrimination, religion, and so on, right? That sort of like tell you being LGBTQ is wrong. But actually, there is nothing wrong with it. And I'm speaking of this from a place where I actually studies this firsthand and also connecting with the wider literature. LGBTQ is a natural variant of human sexuality. And this actually got me quite angry at one point because, despite I was a top student in the Bachelor Psychology degree, but then the whole time we actually never learn about it in class. And I don't think I ever learned about it in my master's degree as well. No lecturer specifically talk about this. Yeah, but it's just so strange lah. It's like the higher ups, they are censoring a lot of messages and information such that only one interpretation exists, telling you that this is sinful thing. Yeah. So what happens when the whole environment tells you that you are wrong, you are bad, right? You'll be like, huh, what the heck are you talking about, right? But well, so what happens is to keep ourselves safe, we are going to hide into our shell, so that people don't know that, oh, I'm part of this community, right? That's what we have seen a lot of people are doing. People hide themselves and they develop like, for example, general anxiety disorder because there's just so many things they need to be afraid about. For example, this is what my participant told me, yeah, living as a Malay Muslim gay man in Malaysia. Yeah, this 4M, yeah. Malay Muslim gay man in Malaysia. That 4M is a very challenging circumstances to be in. So you see, the bigger structure, the law, culture, religion, discrimination, and so on, that really affect us, right? It makes us spend a lot of energy to just try to cope with all these stressors and you need to constantly evaluate like, oh, okay, so how should I express myself, when I'm in this with this person, how should I express myself, what can I say, and how much should I say, and what must I, kind of like block, I should not share with the other person. Yeah, so all these bigger structure, they do affect us, like, it's like a constant way of stressing us up because we need to manage so many things in our head, right? And we develop some coping strategy in response to that. So maybe it's about you trying to hide your identity, or it's about you, trying to really be hyper vigilant, looking out for potential threats around you, right? And that's stressful, And a lot of time people don't notice this. They don't know that they are under this stress. So for example, one of the client that I work with, so he developed a way of coping with all these things because he doesn't know about this, right? So he developed a way of coping, which is to overwork himself. Why? He's the Malay Muslim gay man that side, yeah. So he told me that, oh, so that people will not ask me about, whether I've got a partner or I'm thinking about marriage and all that. Yeah. So he was under a lot of stress. And how he coped with it was he actually do chemsex. And he will lose consciousness for a couple of days and finally going back to the grind. So I asked him, wow. So you take on all this external stress against gay people. You get yourself into campsites, right? Sort of like numb yourself like an escape, right? And I asked him, is that really fair for you? Yeah. Because what's happening right here is you allow the perpetrator to harm you, and you inflict further harm on yourself. Then he was like thinking, right, you've got a point. Yeah. So knowing how this bigger structure affect us, it could really change, for some people, it could really change how we deal with our everyday life. So I would also like to invite you to reflect about, how what kind of coping strategy have you developed in response to the stressors that you face, and whether you like the way that you are coping with it. And next, let's talk about this. When I write about this sentence, it makes me go, ouch, that hurts. But I think many of you will be able to resonate with this. Like, do you possess the quality to be in the LGBTQ community? Right. So when we hide, because we need to hide ourselves, so things become exclusive to certain places. So there are implicit rules, about where things happen at a certain place, at a certain time, right? And you know what's happening. Like for example, yeah, sauna, pub, bar. So those are like the offline ones, right? And there are the other part that is like online. And I'm not sure if any one of you experienced this. Like, you swipe left and right on Tinder until like there's no one else on your screen. So those are the established places, where we know people exist there in a place at this time, and basically they're in a community, right? And that's the primary way of making friends. So, but a lot of time, things are actually much more complex than this, right? So, I don't know what happens in sauna or pub because I'm a person who just really enjoy my me time. But maybe so maybe you saw this beautiful face on the app and then you initiated a conversation with them. Your heart was like racing like, oh, so good looking, right? And then I want to get some of this person's gene into my body, that kind of thing. Yeah. So you started fantasizing about, oh, I want to be in this relationship with this person. Like, oh, I want to go and bring this person, to this restaurant. We're going to eat this food. Maybe you have that cup of latte. Oh, so nice, right? And then you waited like crazy on the app, and then 3 days is gone. You're pretty damn sure that this person has come online and then they read your message, but then they are not replying for some reason, right? And you know what happened? That's actually rejection, right? And I hate rejection. I hate being rejected, right? Because you see, you reach out to the other person, that feels so vulnerable, right? Because you're basically saying, hey, I need you. That sounds vulnerable, isn't it? Right? And when they don't reciprocate, that feels very awful. And a similar situation, where you're very happily exchanging conversation with this blank face, and then you have been chatting with them for like maybe the past 2 weeks, you decided to meet up and then you say, hey, can I see your picture? You swipe through all your selfies and you pick the best one you send over, and the person go missing, right? Like, what's going on? Like the moment I send you a photo and then you suddenly you can't reply, right? And so it's sort of like convey this message, like there's something about you that's unattractive, undesirable, and it's about rejection too, right? So from research and from clinical work, I hear it again and again and again about how there's this exclusivity in the LGBT community. Like you need to possess certain quality to just be in this community. Like for example, are you gay enough to be a gay? Or maybe it's about your body shape, your vocal, how the whether your vocal sounds like masculine or feminine, how muscular you are, your penis size or what race you're from, right? So some of the participants told me that, the gay community is like an exclusive place for Chinese Chinese gay men, the kind of thing, right? So that's really this hierarchy and a lot of discrimination going on, right? Also within this community. So like when you don't possess certain qualities, like there's a barrier there, right? And those cool kids will just not let you join them. And that's about rejection, right? So being in Malaysia, And living as an LGBTQ person, you not only experience a lot of blatant rejection or discrimination coming from the bigger society, but also from within the community. And many LGBTQ people actually they don't feel like they belong or that they can belong in this community, right? And it feels bad to be rejected. It hurts. And so a lot of time when we talk about all these stressors, right, I think we cannot escape talking about sex. Why? Because like one of the participants actually shared with me like, sex is the only thing that is positive in his whole life, you know. Everything else was so stressful, and sex is the only positive thing that kind of like helped him to stay alive, kind of thing. Yeah. So sex is something very special in the LGBTQ community. And at first, it is a lot about exploring like where do I find myself in terms of sexual relationship, for example, in man and man relationships. So maybe you'll be looking at oh, am I a side, top, bottom, or versatile, that kind of thing. But after some time, after you figure that out, what comes next is actually more about like connection. And sex plays a different role, in this relationship, because most form of sex is it comes when your body is like naked, right? And this body, all this while you experience so much of rejection, right? People just suddenly stop talking to you after you send a photo and all that kind of stuff. So this body that is, filled with so much of shame, being rejected, and right now you're being so raw, so naked, but at the same time you're being accepted by others while you're having sex, right? And that feels nice because it gives you the sense of connection that you crave. So especially, when it comes to things like alcohol and chemsex, so what it does to you is like it lowers the inhibition. When you take alcohol or drugs, you kind of like lose a bit of your control. Why? What it does to your body is kind of reduce the inhibition. So you kind of let loose of yourself, right? People say that, oh, when I drink and then I can talk more about myself to de-stress and that kind of stuff. So that is actually lower inhibition, right? You kind of like lose control in hope to win over acceptance from the other person. So at times, sex with drugs, it does give you some sort of acceptance, but at what cost? I think that's a question that we need to ask. Because apart from just lowering your inhibition so that you do things you normally would never do, it comes at the cost of addiction. It actually mess up your brain for quite a bit. Yeah. And now I'm speaking of this talk, from the place as a mental health professional, and how addiction work is just much more than you just addicted to it. Yeah, it messes up your everyday life too. Because what happens when you take drug is that the drug suddenly just throw your brain into a very high level of excitement. So for example, from here, you just throw you up very high level of excitement that this level no matter what we do in our everyday life, we are not normally able to achieve that level of excitement. Yeah. So once your body have reached that new level of high, yeah, it's almost like it set a new bar in your brain, like this is the new normal. Okay. And because you have experienced this level of excitement, previously the thing that you do is never able to match up with this level of excitement. Yeah, so you become like very severely understimulated, and you want to go back to all these substance use to just keep the stimulation there. Yeah, so an easier way to help you to picture this is, for example, I'm not sure if you have experienced this, but I did, like for example, I like to eat this curry mee in my neighborhood, and then I was like, oh, this is the best thing, right? And then until like, I swipe through those Instagram posts, and then there's this curry mee that was rumored to be one of the best in KL Selangor, right? So I go and try it. And after that, okay, like this is the new normal, right? This is the new standard that I go for, and then I other curry is that just it's just pale in contrast. Yeah, so it's actually the exact same feeling. Just that in the case of addiction, it's like really bring up to a very crazily high level. And once your body experience that high, you want to maintain there. And anything that doesn't reach there, it's like considered boring, right? So, and I've got a friend, I've got some friends that, I always roll eye at them because like whenever they feel sad, or something, what they do is they go and drink. And I was like, okay, as a trained counselor, and I'm highly confident in my counseling skills, and then I was like, oh my God, this is like so a big red flag because why? because basically, they're so proud that, whenever I use, I drink and then I can talk so much more things about myself and then I get drunk and stuff. I'm like, oh my God. That is like a very risky and dangerous coping mechanism in my view, lah, huh? So, because if you read what World Health Organization released in 2023, they say that, it's so clearly that no amount of alcohol is safe for our body. And why do people get drunk? They want to escape from reality, right? Or maybe if they get drunk in the presence of others, it's really about they want social connection, right? They need to lower their inhibition to just talk their problem out. And then I was like, if you want social connection, just talk lah, right? The alcohol is really just a facade there. So and funny thing, people actually do research about this. Like, when you find friends and you talk about your problem, you rant, right? So how effective is this? Okay, they do it in research, and then what they found out was that, okay, ranting is good in the short term, but in the long term, you realize that, hey, it actually macam doesn't work out, yeah? So it's kind of like, why is that so? It's kind of like you put a plaster on the cancer cell and then you thought that, oh, it's healed, but that's just not how things work, right? Okay, so what about sex or chemsex, right? Sex itself is addictive, and when this person pairs sex with drugs, it's going to be even more addictive, right? And remember, I talked about like how drugs set a new bar in your brain, and I strongly advocate against touching drugs during sex because like um having visited like rehab facilities and stuff, my sincere advice is don't ever touch drug. Okay, if you find yourself in a place, you hook up and then there is drug, get off the scene. Okay, you should not be at that place. Okay, not there, definitely not there. Okay, never ever be in a place of using drug. Okay, run, seriously, my advice. Okay. And sex is actually, like I say, sex is actually much more than just sex, right? A lot of time, sex actually signify that we want in-depth connection. But many people don't know that, yeah. When they feel lonely, they want connection, and without them knowing it, they see a surge in their sexual activity because they feel empty inside. They crave for connection, and especially for the gay community. So place where you socialize is highly sexualized. Okay, like, for example, don't talk to me unless you've got a big dick and you have got so and so qualities, right? So before we can even talk about love, we make love. And that's it, right? That's a full stop. So the in-depth connection that you expect is simply not happening, right? And think about this. Where do you find other gay people? It's on gay apps, in sauna, and in bar. Okay. And you don't tell me like people go sauna to buff because that's not how it works. Okay. They go there to mate, they go there to have sex. Okay. And so, there's like nowhere to really get into this sort of in-depth communication. And sex sounds like, almost like the first hurdle that you need to get through before you actually go to the in-depth connection part. Yeah. But actually, if you want to build like an intimate relationship or interpersonal relationship that would develop into romantic relationship, unfortunately, that is not how things work. Yeah, it's not going to work well when you go by this way. Okay. If it does, it would have worked out so long ago, okay? And and I think people just don't really constantly reflect on this to realize this, yeah. So when they want love, they go online, look at different profiles, right? They hook up, but it actually never really fulfill that, deep human connection. So when they don't get it, the need very quickly arise again. You go hook up, you don't get it, you get frustrated, right? You crave for more connection, more hookup, more frustrated. So that goes into a vicious cycle of never actually fulfilling the actual needs, right? Because and in this process, you feel like it's a process of, oh, why am I not, no one wants to develop a relationship with me. So it's like a constant rejection. It's like you're thinking about, is there something wrong with me? Why are people not wanting to be in a relationship with me, right? So and that tells you a lot about rejection, right? It's about rejection as well. And yeah, so if you really want this type of, in-depth connection, you need to go to places where you find it, right? It's not in Grinder where people just meet up and just fuck each other, and it's You know how ironic this is? Like it's like almost like, you tell me you go to sauna so that you will meet a Prince Charming who is drinking a cup of latte, reading a book there, right? My darling, once again, people don't go to sauna to just drink latte and read the book, right? They are there to meet. So you want to find someone that's drinking latte and read a book, right? You need to go to the place where they exist. So maybe it's in a cafe or in a library, right? You need to find them at the right place. Okay. And when you face a lot of rejection and all that, and all this stress, you need to be hyper vigilant about your surrounding. You need to micromanage what you say, how you say, with who, right? So kind of like when you have to manage so many kind of stresses, that's very stressful. And also when the community tell you that, oh, your body shape should look like a certain type and so on. So maybe you start to do something extreme so that your body can look a certain way. You try to do this, you try to do that, so that you conform to the ideal. And I find this thing quite useful for me. Yeah. It's almost like, you're cutting your toes to fit an imported shoes. Sounds scary, right? You're cutting your toes to just fit an imported shoe. But isn't that what a lot of us are doing, right? Unknowingly, we kind of like get allured into conforming ourselves to this standard, right? At a place where we thought, oh, maybe I should belong here. But we are the misfits. So that turns into health risks for many people, right? Eating disorders, anxiety disorders, or depression. Yeah. So maybe you worry that, oh, maybe the authorities will come and catch me, right? Or maybe my family members will find out about it. So maybe you try to withdraw yourself from a lot of social situation because the less people see me, the less trouble I attract, right? But actually, we humans, we need social connection. And when that need is not fulfilled, it will manifest in so many different ways. Remember, we talk about like you need to worry about many stuff. So when this worry is too activated, you are no longer able to switch it off. That turns into abnormal level of anxiety, right? Anxiety disorders. And so when you're at an elevated level of anxiety, what happens next? You try to suppress it, right? Because you know that something is clearly not right. But no matter how you suppress it, you will realize that it won't go away. Yeah. And this is what I want to talk about. So a lot of people when they experience emotion, like when clients come in, right, they tell me that, oh, I don't want this emotion, right? They'll try to suppress it. But I just let you know, suppression is not a good coping strategy. All right. Based on research, we know that this is like the worst thing because it actually aggravate whatever symptoms that you have. Okay. And a lot of people they use drug and use alcohol to just numb themselves. Why? To just numb themselves and they numb the pain because they want social acceptance, right? You hurt yourself, you please yourself, you want to please others, but is that really what you want? Is that really fair for yourself, right? And so this is what I want you to remember. So when you feel hurt, you feel rejected, excluded, when you feel bad, horrible about yourself, I want you to pause, right? I want you to pause and look into yourself because this is the very moment that you get hurt. This time around, we're going to make the wrong right. Yeah. So remember, I just talked about like emotion, don't suppress it. Yeah. So I'm pointing out three things that you mustn't do with your emotion. Yeah. Don't suppress your emotion, don't avoid your emotion, and don't keep ruminate. What we call is ruminate. Yeah. But what ruminate means is, for example, you keep asking question like, oh, why did I do this? Why did I do it wrong? Why am I so stupid? Okay, let me break it down for you. When you ask this question, why am I so stupid, whatever answer that you come up with, you notice that you never escape the premise that I am stupid, right? Whatever explanation is just how stupid you are. So that is rumination. Don't go for it because definitely it will lead to poorer mental health. Okay. So once again, don't suppress, don't avoid, and don't ruminate because these three things confirm you will have poorer mental health. What I want you to do instead is three things that was found to help. Okay. The first one is to obviously solve the problem. But if it doesn't solve, we can't solve the problem. What then? Next, try to see if I can accept this emotion, even if it sucks. Okay. Just be with it, accept it. Because right now I feel hurt. I just want to accept this. Right. The third the third way is to think about, is there another way of seeing this situation? Okay. So once again, three things that work, yeah. The first one, solve the problem. Second one, accept your emotion. The third one, see if there's another way of seeing the situation. Okay. All right. So going back to you feel hurt, you paused. What's next? Okay. And I want to teach you how to do it right. So this is about self-love. So when no one out there teach you how to defend for yourself, I want you to learn to defend for yourself. Because when, no one else can love you as much as you love yourself. And only when you provide this love for yourself, that is a very sustainable way of doing things. Okay. When there is no one else to pat your back, I want you to be there for yourself, to tap your back and say that, wow, thanks for showing up. Thanks for trying. Because when you show up, you try and you try to take that risk, right? That's so fucking amazing, right? Like, look, for example, it's just not easy to strike a conversation with anyone, right? You send your picture over, and deep down, you actually know how this game works. You experience it so many times, right? The next moment, you might not get a reply, but you still take this risk, right? If this is not courage, tell me what is. So you did something very great there. You mastered the courage to be seen and be vulnerable. So why kick yourself up when someone reject you, right? There's no need for so. You need to tell yourself like, oh my God, I'm fucking amazing, right? I reach out to this person. I share the best version of myself. They don't even dare to reply me, right? Yes, of course it hurts, right? Remember, accepting our own emotion. It's painful when people reject us. That is true, right? And this is at the same time, once again, you feel hurt right now, right? Pause, go inside to yourself and say, wow, amazing. I just did something so courageous. The other person don't like me, that's fine, right? At least I do something so amazing. I can look up to myself and say, wow, you've done well. Okay. And remember, you've got all this crazy imagination with this other person. You want to bring them to this restaurant, drink that cup of coffee, right? I want you to do that to yourself. Okay. I want you to think about this. So, as if you are your own crush, whatever you can do for your crush, I want you to do it to yourself, right? Because that is your way of expressing love for the other person. And that is how you wish to receive love as well. Okay? And that is the trick to self-love. Whatever you are willing to dedicate for the other person, do it onto your own self as well. All right? Be nice to yourself, get yourself that cup of latte, and tell yourself, oh my God, I'm so fucking amazing. Okay, I'm so awesome.
Huh?
Yeah.
Then we must
Just really
advise
respect yourself.
Liow Jun Wei to stop already.
Hi. Yes, I hear you. I was asked to stop, right? Yes. Okay, thanks. I think that's about it. I hope I convey this message clear that what is about self-love. Wait, just let me read out in 1 minute, okay? Yeah, it's really about thinking about, how I would treat my crush. I treat the same way to myself. Okay, so that is the trick to self-love. Remember, when you feel hurt, pause, channel self-love. Okay, you deserve respect, love, and to be treated like an equal human. Yeah.